Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Good Friday evening. Welcome to the Friday edition of the Jimmy Whitehead Power Hour. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Looking forward to a wonderful weekend. Today, like I've been doing for the past several Fridays, I'm focused on talking about our extraordinary Atlantic Coastal Tourism District Opportunity Zone initiative. This is something that is being put on by our nonprofit U.S. Hard Cares, U.S. Humanitarian Aid Response Team, nonprofit 501c3 organization. And the goal of our nonprofit is to bring together some of the extraordinary minds that exist in our Atlantic coastal cities. That's Longport, Margate, Ventnor, Pleasantville, Atlantic City, Brigantine. How can we come together and come up with some ideas about leveraging our tourism district opportunity zone in terms of creating some new business, some new entrepreneurship, some new growth that is much needed? Similar to everything you see going on in the Orange Loop right now. Mark Caloza has done an extraordinary job of building out the Orange Loop into some enterprises that are creating new jobs and new opportunity and a new community in Atlantic City. But the way it works, I wanted to just go over with everybody, because I want everybody in Atlantic City, particularly, to get used to learning about what the opportunity zone is. So you have to have some knowledge of what you're doing before you could do it. And I think that a lot of people think with the new casinos opening up in New York and possibly northern New Jersey soon, it's going to be like a vacuum. It's going to suck a lot of the economics out of Atlantic City. I mean, it's going to be competitive. The reason Atlantic City's casinos are in the situation they're in now, which is a good situation, but it used to be a lot better when there were not casinos all over America. When there were only casinos in Las Vegas and Atlantic City, we had the lion's share. We had the East Coast. Nobody else had casinos. But now with these other casinos in every state, on our border in Philadelphia and Maryland, etc., and now coming to New York, we have to figure out how we can create new economic model, a new economic paradigm for the Atlantic coastal communities to benefit from mutually and be able to grow together. If we think together, if we work together, if we come up with a plan together, then everybody will benefit. All the taxpayers, all the government agencies, the police departments, everybody needs what I call the oil of the economic engine. That's money. And if we can use our nonprofit to be a platform for brilliant minds to come together and discuss some solutions that are mutually beneficial, then everybody wins. It's a win-win for everybody. And this opportunity zone, let me give you a little background first about what an opportunity zone is, if you don't already know. So opportunity zones were enacted as part of the 2017 Federal Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and are designed to drive long-term capital investments into low-income rural and urban communities. This federal capital gains tax incentive encourages private investors to support investments in designated low-income distressed communities, opportunity zones, census tract, through participation in qualified opportunity funds. So what's an opportunity fund? An opportunity fund or qualified opportunity fund is a special vehicle to invest in qualified opportunity zone property. Opportunity zone funds must hold at least 90% of their assets in the qualified opportunity zone stock, partnership interest, or business property. To receive the tax incentives, capital gains must be invested in qualified opportunity funds within 180 days of the date of the sale or exchange producing the gain. So this is a law that was created during President Trump's first administration, which Secretary Scott Turner at that time, it's my understanding, he worked diligently on this. The opportunity zones went into law in the first administration. When the president came back in this term, it was one of the higher priorities of the administration and HUD. Um, anything to increase self-sufficiency, to create jobs for individuals, to create home ownership for individuals, is what this administration has been pushing. And through opportunity zones, collaborations, and public-private partnerships, those are the three key elements that they're looking for, that investors are looking for, and that we're looking for in Atlantic coastal communities and Atlantic cities opportunity zone. We're looking at ways that we can collaborate through public-private partnerships and create new opportunities in the tourism district opportunity zone. Now, how were New Jersey opportunity zones designated? Designated census tracts were based upon a formula incorporating the Municipal Revitalization Index, MRI, which reflects key economic indicators, e.g., income, unemployment rates, property values. That also takes into consideration geographic distribution, access to transit, and value of existing investments, including those encouraged by state programs and incentives. To ensure a fair and transparent selection process, feedback and input was received from mayors throughout the state of New Jersey, congressional delegations, prior to the governor's office making the final designation of state opportunity zones. So that's how they were created in New Jersey. And the one that was created in South Jersey, which is Atlantic City and Pleasantville. The entire city of Pleasantville is designated as an opportunity zone. The only part in Atlantic City that's an opportunity zone is if you stand on Atlantic Avenue, look towards the ocean. So from Atlantic Avenue to the boardwalk, and from Albany, where Knife and Fork restaurant is, all the way down to New Hampshire Avenue. So from New Hampshire Avenue to Albany, from Atlantic Avenue to the boardwalk, all of that area is the opportunity zone. Now, there's no opportunity zones in Longport and Margate and Ventnor and Brigantine because they have a stronger economy, they have more vibrant home ownership, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a way that those communities can benefit from the only Atlantic coastal opportunity zone in the tourism district by collaborating, by forming public-private partnerships, by doing the things that the government wants to do, both the federal government and the state government, and that's create new jobs for local Atlantic coastal residents so that they can become future homeowners. So it's all about this economic engine that you create an opportunity, you employ somebody, or you teach a man or woman to fish, as they say, and then these jobs allow them to become productive, earning citizens and allow them to purchase a home. That's the end result that everybody wants in terms of economic development in Atlantic City specifically. Create jobs that create families that can afford to buy a home. And we need affordable home for them to be able to purchase, which Mayor Small has continuously worked on creating new affordable home opportunities for local residents. How many zones were created? 169 census tracts and 75 municipalities were nominated on March 20th, 2018, and approved by the U.S. Department of Treasury on April 9th, 2018. Can additional census tracts be designated as opportunity zone? No. All of the New Jersey designations have been accepted and approved by the U.S. Department of Treasury, and no substitutions or additions are allowed. Opportunity zones boundaries cannot be moved either. So see, here's the uniqueness. We have one, and we probably have the only opportunity zone that God has created on a beach, an oceanfront opportunity zone. Ocean, everybody already knows oceanfront property is the most valuable property in America. Oceanfront property from the West Coast to the East Coast. Now, on top of that, God gave us an opportunity zone, a opportunity zone. Wait a minute, my camera cut off for a minute. So God gave us a beachfront opportunity zone, an oceanfront opportunity zone. God is not making any more oceanfront opportunity zones. It's in writing right here. No, there will be no more opportunity zones. So what we want to do with this unique collaboration of, we want to bring all of the leadership together from all 6 of the cities. I call them Atlantic Coastal Sister Cities. Again, that's Longport, Margate, Ventnor, Pleasantville, Atlantic City, Brigantine. And we want to bring together the leadership of these cities, the political leadership, the government leadership, the entrepreneurial leadership, the compassionate capitalism leadership of these 6 municipalities, these 6 sister cities. And we want to sit down with the leadership and hear what they think would be some good ideas to pursue. And then once we hear from them, we're going to get together as next steps and figure out how to put together a plan that meets some of those objectives discussed. The key here is that Atlantic City is the golden goose of New Jersey, the whole state. Atlantic City is the platinum goose of the Atlantic coastal cities because we're all closer together. And what we want to do is get together and feed the goose some brilliant ideas so that the goose could start laying some diamond eggs. Because just think about it. We create new entrepreneurship that creates new growth. Let's say even create new wealth. That's the goal. Wealth. We want to create wealth because it takes wealth to grow entrepreneurially. Legacy wealth. Okay. Once we create new wealth in this opportunity zone, where the way it works, let me share this with you. How I said the way it works, and here's the page. How do opportunity zones work? Taxpayers can defer paying federal taxes on capital gains, including those from real estate sales, invested in qualified opportunities funds that invest in low-income communities under rules released by the U.S. Department of Treasury. These are 3 separate benefits offered by the tax incentive. Number 1, reinvested capital gains are deferred from taxation until exit from the Qualified Opportunity Fund or December 31st, 2026, whichever comes first. Number 2, the original capital gains reinvested in Qualified Opportunity Fund investments held for the long term receive a reduction in capital gains tax liabilities, discounted by 10% at the 5-year mark and by an additional 5% at the 7-year mark. So this is about investors being able to make investments without being overtaxed, while their money has a chance to mature and grow roots and grow jobs and grow wealth. and it's much needed for entrepreneurs. When an entrepreneur or an investor invests money, they need 5 to 10 years for the investment to turn around a profit. So it's a wonderful way to encourage investment to come into your city and focus on how to grow that investment into jobs and wealth. Number three, any new gains from qualified opportunity fund investments held for at least 10 years are permanently excluded from the capital gains tax. These funds investments can be held through as late as 2047 without losing tax benefits. How does the 10-year minimum for capital gains tax exclusion relate to the December 31st, 2026 deadline? The December 31st, 2026 deadline relates to the maximum period the original capital gains can be deferred from taxation. It does not affect the timing of when the additional capital gains from investing in a qualified opportunity fund can be excluded from taxation. For example, an investor that reinvests capital gains in a qualified opportunity fund in 2018 would have to pay federal taxes on the original gains by December 31st, 2026. But that investor could sell his or her interest in the fund as early as 2028 or as late as 2047 and pay no tax on the additional gains from the fund investment. Now, to be honest with you, somebody much smarter than me can really dive into and interpret these rules and regulations. All I know, in a very simplistic way, is that an opportunity zone is the best thing going in America right now for any investor because you can invest in there and not have to pay taxes for 10 years. And see, here's one example. Let's see, Secretary HUD. So recently, Secretary Scott Turner, the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, he visited, I think it was Michigan. He visited Michigan. 'Cause Michigan had an incredible, successful opportunity zone where some investor had invested $1.4 billion in an opportunity zone. And I believe it's to build some new mixed use, affordable housing and commercial, mixed use real estate development. But the fact of the matter, an opportunity zone attracted $1.4 billion of investment in Michigan, where it gets very cold. They don't have a beach. They don't have a boardwalk. They don't have all these beautiful casinos and resorts for people to come to. So if they can do it, we can do it in Atlantic City. We can do it in the Atlantic coastal communities. It just takes the right amount of focused leadership. It takes visionary leadership. It takes creativity. It takes us uniting and working together as communities. And I do believe that under the current leadership of these coastal communities, we have men and women in leadership roles that have that type of compassion to want to work together to move the Atlantic coastal economy further ahead of everybody else. There are going to be some ideas discussed that I'm not going to share right now, but there are some extraordinary ideas about how we can create new economic development, specifically in Atlantic City, that will impact and impact and attract hundreds of thousands of new tourists to Atlantic City, with a goal of creating 10,000 families living in Atlantic City. There could be some folks who may have moved to Egg Harbor Township or moved to Pleasantville or moved to Galloway, who were born in Atlantic City and have always been looking for the opportunity to move back to Atlantic City because their family is there. So now we're going to focus on how do we create the opportunity to bring those folks and others back to Atlantic City because I was talking with the developer of the Orange Loop, and he told me, he said, Jimmy, what is needed right now in Atlantic City is 10,000 families. 10,000 families in affordable workforce housing. That first step would be a step in the right direction of creating a vibrant economy for Atlantic City, having families there. Now, once you have families there, or while you're bringing families there, you also want to bring business. You want to bring business in too, because those families are going to need jobs. And we can't just look at the casinos as a panacea anymore. The casinos cannot afford to be the welfare check for Atlantic City anymore. Casinos need to be able to stay in business themselves. But while they're staying in business, we can create new private sector opportunity, which I know for a fact our mayor, Marty Small, has been completely focused on, from the Small Business Academy to creating small business loan programs, small business grant programs, small business workforce training. If it wasn't for the vision of Mayor Marty Small, we might not have our current cybersecurity workforce training program, because I could not have achieved or received the support of the federal government to do what we're doing without the support of the mayor of the city. And the mayor was Mayor Marty Small. Now, just think, we get Mayor Marty Small together with all the other mayors, and they start talking about how can we move forward together economically. And they come up with some brilliant ideas. That's it. That's moving the economy forward from the top down in terms of local government, in terms of real leadership, in terms of visionary entrepreneurial activity. You have to start with the leadership of our local governments. And then once those local government leaders begin to lead this economy in that direction, you're going to see entrepreneurs who are interested in investing in that leadership and the vision that the leadership has. And when the vision is paired with a qualified opportunity zone, which allows investors to avoid, but not avoid, let's say, not pay taxes on their investment for 10 years, because eventually we all got to pay taxes. My grandfather said there's two things that we all got to do: pay taxes and die. Okay, those are two things that are guaranteed: paying taxes and dying. So we can give a little bit of oxygen to the process by teaming up and collaborating to make our opportunity zone a mecca of new synergy, new workforce training, new apartments, new condominiums, new affordable housing, new business. It's a win-win. So I just want to continue to focus on talking about the opportunity zone, because the same way 10 years ago, when I was always talking about cybersecurity workforce training, and now we see that it is real. We actually have a cybersecurity workforce training program, which sits right outside the opportunity zone, and we want to move it into the opportunity zone in the future. But I'm so proud of our graduates who are graduating after a 10-week hardcore cybersecurity workforce training course. We already have some potential leads for jobs that we're going to follow up with our cyber guardians about. But we're having a graduation on the 24th, and it's going to be inside the cyber. It's going to be inside the opportunity zone at Hard Rock. The Honorable Commissioner, Atlantic County Commissioner Michael Ruffew, is presenting all of our cyber guardians with a certificate of achievement from the county commission, which is prestigious. President of U.S. Hard Horse Jones is presenting each one of the graduates with a cyber guardian certificate of completion. We have identified several of the cyber guardians that we're going to take to another level of training, because they were so focused and achieved a very high level on their tests in terms of their scores. So the point I'm making is, 10 years ago, I kept talking about cybersecurity workforce training. the threat of the cyber terrorists out there from China to Russia to folks right here in our backyard who will do a cyber ransom attack on small businesses or the casinos. Um, I talked about it for 10 years, and there's reality. And not only is it reality, it's leading our discussions about the opportunity zone for to attract new cyber businesses, AI businesses, data businesses, to move into our opportunity zone and create new jobs for the new workforce that we're creating right now. Because when the industry sees that we're creating cybersecurity workforce trained individuals, well, then they don't have a problem moving there if you're already preparing phase one, because you got to have skilled workforce trainers. We're already doing that. Now, since we got to the cyber part where it's moving and it's growing, it's expanding, now we add the next element, and that's the opportunity zone. And we add that element with the distinguished leadership of our 6 coastal cities working together to achieve the mission. And the mission is create new growth, create non-casino new growth, create new jobs that pay well, create new affordable housing for local residents, create an oasis of opportunity that attracts 10,000 new families to Atlantic City, create a platform where all 6 cities mutually benefit off of this group effort inside the opportunity zone. And then you start to see this stuff come to fruition. You start to see new investments. You start to see new jobs. And you'll say, you know, I remember when Jimmy Whitehead had this Jimmy Whitehead Power Hour podcast, and he was talking about how we're going to see new growth in Atlantic City in the opportunity zone. And by the way, I got one of those jobs in the opportunity zone. I'm so glad that Jimmy Whitehead and this team of distinguished individuals sat down and came up with some great ideas. So that's where we're growing. We're growing to a point of unity amongst our coastal communities. We're growing towards a point of creating some new non-casino entrepreneurship and jobs. We're growing towards a point of creating new workforce housing that's affordable. And we're growing with the blessings of God. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to end on this note. Check this out. I'm going to put a little music behind the story I want to share with you guys. Okay. So I'm going to end with this story that happened today. I go to the grocery store to get some groceries. And this young African-American man was the cashier. I never saw this guy before. He's probably around 17 years old, 18 years old, young guy. And as soon as I walk up to the cash register to purchase my goods, he said, "Sir," he said, "I just want to tell you everything that you're working on right now, it's going to work." He said, "God got you." And, you know, I'm a very spiritual person. So I looked at him. I said, "What'd you say, brother?" He said, "Whatever is on your mind, whatever you're thinking about, it's already happened. God has blessed you. It's already happened." I said, "What's your name?" And he had a badge on. His name was Matthew. I said, "Brother, let me tell you something." I said, "The one verse I can remember in the Bible, the Holy Bible, since I was 18 years old when I went to boot camp. My aunt told me about this verse in Matthew chapter 25. There's a story in there about the 5 wise virgins and the 5 foolish virgins filling their vessel with the Lord. It's a wonderful little verse and story behind it. And I told him, I said, "You know what? The words you spoke to me today and told me that God has already made it happen." I said, "I appreciate that so much, brother. I'm going to give you a little tip." I took $20 out of my pocket and I gave it to the brother. I mean, he's working for minimum wage. $20, $50 is a lot of money to some folks. It's a lot of folks, including me. But it wasn't the amount of the money, it was the amount of blessings that this young man, who I don't know, out of no place, regular guy, he said, God has already made it happen. So what I'm telling you who are checking me out right now on the Jimmy Whitehead Power Hour, that this Atlantic Coastal Tourism District Opportunity Zone has already happened, because God has blessed it to happen. So please stay tuned for more wonderful news in the near future, particularly around the time of our Cyber Guardians January 24th graduation. Jimmy Whitehead, wishing you all a wonderful and blessed weekend and restful. Okay? God bless you. God bless America. And God bless Atlantic